Alright, hey guys, welcome to part 13 of my ActionScript 3 platformer tutorial. I got a new video recording software rather than Screencast-O-Matic. Now I'm using Open Broadcaster software, and I'm really happy with the way that it looks. Aside from not being able to use the Windows arrow, the mouse frame rate is a lot better on this. I don't have a watermark in the bottom left corner. I don't have a 15-minute time limit. I can go full HD 1080p. Probably won't though, because that's going to take a long time to load. But now I've got everything that I need to give you guys even better tutorials. So, let me just show you how this looks now. Not nearly as choppy, it's great. One thing that is an issue, there's a few glitches from last time that I wasn't able to get around to fixing because I was on such a constricted time limit because of the old software, but now I can fix these and add new stuff. Doesn't matter how long this video goes. So, one thing, if I'm standing on this cloud block and then I come down here, the floor doesn't work anymore. That's because we forgot, well, I forgot, change the floor that we get set to on the cloud class, the default floor, like we did on block. It's still 450 here. So what we need to do is take in default floor and put it there so that we don't have that issue here as well. And then all we got to do is go back in here and in our for loop in the check stub function, go ahead and add default floor. So that's one of the easy fixes. The other thing is, it's going to take me a little while. I got to play through the beginning to show you where this glitch happens. Yeah, we get errors here because I was careless and somehow the L here got erased or never got typed. We need to have an L right there, because if we use C, that means we're using the variable from up here, and that's going to be however many coins are left on the screen, and that's not going to be equal to the same amount of cloud blocks. So you want to make sure that you never cross your for loop variables. You always want to keep those separate from each other. Otherwise, you'll get errors like that. Now I've got to clear that. But now there's still even one more small thing that I forgot to do last time because I was in such a rush. Trying to squeeze a lot more into tutorials now, so I'm going to have to start making the videos longer if I want to get as much content as I want in each video. So it's good that I found this software when I did. You see now, that fix that we did for the other thing, that works now. But now we come up here. We go back up, and we end up there and then fall back down. Now, I don't know if you could see it, but there's a frame where we're in the right place and then we get thrown back up. And that's because the floor doesn't get reset when we go from one map to the other. The floor still thinks that your character is way the heck up here when we need to be down here. So what we need to do is, in our little if statements that we put here, just reset the floor like we did on the original variable in the player and enemy classes. Go ahead and say char.floor equals something huge like 10,000. We're never going to have a floor that's that far. So that fixes those little things. The next things I want to do in this tutorial are wall jumping and double jumping. Now, double jumping is a lot easier than wall jumping. I'm just going to go ahead and take that out of the way. I'm going to need to make another variable. We're going to call it jump count. And in our check stuff function, I'm going to throw in if statement. go ahead, put it right with the other stuff right here. Climbing and jumping, we'll say if char.floor is equal to char.y plus char.height divided by 2, jump count equals 0. So basically, if you're on the floor, the number of times that you jumped gets reset to 0. And it's going to stay there until we jump. Now we go down here in our key down function for when we hit W, and we're going to go ahead and put this in brackets. We're going to say jump count plus plus. Every time we jump, the number of jumps goes up 1. And then when we hit the ground, it goes back down to 0. So we can add in here, we can say if the character is on the ground or jump count is less than 2. So basically, that's the double jump right there. You want to make sure you keep that in this set of parentheses and not outside of it. Then it's going to be errors, and it's not going to run right. Now we've got the jump count there. And one thing we want to make sure we do is we don't want you to be able to double jump off of a ladder. So in here, we're just going to say jump count equals 2 when you jump. You can't jump off a ladder double jump. And I mean, if you want that to be something that you can do, that's fine. You just don't add that line that I just added. And now, with only just doing that, we go ahead, 1, 2, we can jump twice. And I can hit up as many times as I want. I only jump twice. So that part's really easy. The wall jumping is going to be a bit more complicated. So what we want to do is at the bottom of the block class, we're going to add a nice if statement. I have it on the clipboard right now. I just pasted it in, but I'm going to explain it as we go. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to take the results of the two walls. Like this wall puts your character right on the edge of this. This wall puts it on the other edge. So in the first part of this if statement, we say if it's on the one edge or it's on the other edge. That's this part right here. And obj.type equals player. That's something we're going to have to add because we don't want our enemies wall jumping, and the enemies still use this check obj function. So we need to add some kind of variable that can discern whether this is going to be a player or an enemy. So we're going to make a variable on our player class called type. You get a string, and the word player. Put the same thing on enemy. Make sure it's public. And type enemy. So now, we look back here. Don't need that. And obj.clinging equals 0. That's another variable we're going to need to add to our player, but we're not going to add this one to the enemy because this is just for wall jumping, and we don't want to have any wall jumping on our enemy. Climbing is equal to 0. No, not climbing, clinging. There we go. And then at the end, make sure that you are within the y bounds of the block, just like we did right here. Same line of code. Now, inside of this if statement, you say if you are on the left wall, well, actually, no, that's the right wall. If you're on the right wall, clinging is -1. If you're on the left wall, clinging is 1. So that's all we need here. Now we need to go back and figure out what to do with this in the main class. So down here, we're going to have something to handle this. Now this is going to be an entirely separate part of this if statement. We're going to throw it after if you're on the ladder. We're going to say for char.onLadder not equal to 0. And now, for this one, we're going to say, if you're not on a ladder, we're going to have to add an and. Oh, I check that twice. Char dot clinging and char dot clinging is equal to 0, because we only want this to happen if we're not wall jumping and we're not on the ladder. That's just a regular jump. We want that to happen when nothing is out of the ordinary. And then we're going to add another section to this if statement. And else if char on ladder is still equal to -1. We still don't want to be on the ladder when we do this, but we want to say if char dot clinging is not equal to 0. In which case we're going to be on a wall when we do this, and we got through this layer of this if statement, so now we're going to do a wall jump. And in order to do a wall jump, what we need to do is say we're going to add one more variable to our player. Make it public. It's going to be ACC2. And we're going to handle this in here. This is going to be the thing that propels us off of the wall when we jump off of it. So we're going to say this dot ACC2, or no, this dot x plus equals ACC2. And then we want, as soon as we get off of the wall, we want this to start slowing down, because we don't want this constant force that just makes us barrel across the stage. So we want to say if ACC2 is less than 0, ACC2 plus plus. And then also in the other direction, because this is going to be positive or negative depending on which side of the block we're on. We're not going to have two separate variables to do this, so it's just going to be if it's greater, minus, if it's less than, plus. So now we go in here, and we're going to say char.grav equals -15, just like a regular jump. Jump count equals 2, because we don't want you being able to double jump after a wall jump. That's just too much jumping. And then char.acc2 equals char.clinging times 20. Because we want it to go 20 either way, and since clinging, if you're actually on something, is going to be either 1 or -1, that's going to send us in the direction that we want it to. And then real quick, one thing, before the block for loop in the enter frame textstuff function, we want to go ahead and just throw a little line that says char.clinging equals 0, because we don't want it to stay like you're actually on the block, because that way you could just wall jump anywhere that you are, and we don't want that to be the case. And then lastly, we don't want to be on the floor when we jump, when we wall jump. We want to say and char.y is less than char.floor. Well, we actually want to make this a lot more exact. Plus char.height divided by 2. So we can go ahead and run this. And now, I go down here. Oh, there's one more thing that we have to do, I forgot. The thing that makes you hit the bottom of a block and then come back down actually sends right to the edge, to the point where like a pixel of it is actually extending outside of where the block is. We don't want that to be the case. So we just throw a -5 on the end of this if statement that handles the bottom. Now we can go ahead and run this and come over to this block over here. When we're right at the bottom here, actually not going to hit it, but then you saw there, if we're up on the top one, works better on this wall over here. You can see we go up to it and we wall jump off. And you can play around with what you want your acceleration value to be, whether you want it to go farther out, you want it to go higher up. You could have it like Super Meat Boy, where you wall jump and you can keep climbing up the wall, or you can just have it like that. Either way works. That's basically it for this tutorial. I'll see you guys next time.